So I'm back again now to put some of that fur around the nose, which everybody struggled a bit with, I think, yesterday. So I'm going to do exactly what I was telling you to do, and I'm going to put some colours in flat. I'm using sticks again. I'm using this pen on its side. I'm using a pink. As I go up here, I'm getting a lot closer to the actual nose and keeping it a lot smaller though. I like pinks and purples around noses, even with dogs, because underneath they are skin coloured. And then to add to that, I'm going to put some of this colour over the top of that to give a fleshy appearance that will go underneath the fur. And then what I said to the ladies yesterday was to blend that out with a Q-tip. So I'm going to do exactly the same, and I'm going to blend this together to make one colour out of two, really. Always very gently, because I don't want to use up all the tooth on that paper. I don't want to pack it down full of pastel, because then it won't take anything else. So you can use your fingers for that. You can use whatever. My fingers are already dirty, but I try not to use them too much, because then as I touch things and move around, I get more transferred to my paper than ever. So then after we'd got that bit done, we decided we'd work out, and I said to get these lines in. You can't really see them on this because I'm using a bit of dirty paper, one that was made yesterday, but I'm going to put a couple of grooves in here, just because this is where the shape comes down under the eyes. And I'm making them pretty thick, but then I'm going to use this same colour and I'm going to come out in the shape of the fur with my hand on its side, the stick on its side, my hand moving in the direction that the fur is going in. And what I made a mistake yesterday, I told them to go all the way around with that, but if you're right-handed, this was a discussion we had yesterday, because we had a lady come and join us that was left-handed, and I didn't notice, I was just ploughing on. I'm going over with this colour here, again just over the outside where the fur is. Now look, this one's got put away with a lot of blue on it, and I didn't check before I started, so I could have, if I'd have been holding it the wrong way, I could have got all that blue exactly where I didn't want it. So clean your pastels before you pop them back in your boxes, and check before when you pick them out again. There we go, a good tip for all of us. So one of the ladies that joined us yesterday was left-handed, and I never noticed. I was too intent on what I was doing. I'm just doing this same again, going in the directions that the fur goes out, up with a flat stick over the top, and just to that top bit. I'm going to take the other side of this Q-tip and blend this a bit now. And the reason I'm talking about left and right is because if you're right-handed, when I'm doing a full portrait, a picture, I'll work from that side and across, because then there's no pastel under my hand. Because now if I put my hand down, I'm smudging and smearing that nose, taking it all over the paper. So now I have to be uber careful not to touch that nose, not to rest my hand down. And this does become easier the more you do it. I'm going over the top of those lines because we'll still be able to see them, because I've put them down quite thick, quite heavy there. I'm still going out over them. I'm moving that Q-tip in the direction that the fur will be going. And just keep checking back to that reference photograph and making sure. I know you can't really see and you think, well, why do you need to do that? Because, you know, you're not making any fur at the minute, but it actually will help you. I can see little bits here and there of the direction, and that helps you. Those are like little pointers on your map of where you're going and what you're doing, and helping you to keep your place and not like your eye can drift off, or it can be too much sometimes working for long periods of time, especially when you first start out, because your brain doesn't want to keep doing that forever and ever. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to take some more pencils. I'm going to use, let me have a look and see what I'm going to use. So around my nose area, I'm going to use these two colours. So first, I'm going to put some little strokes in, always starting from the root of the hair and lifting your pencil as you get out towards the end, and that gives you that tapered look. If you look at a hair, if you pull a hair out, it tapers at the end, trying to create a little bit of a curve. Hairs don't go straight out very often, they go in different directions. I was trying to think yesterday, I'm just going to sharpen this pencil. I was trying to think yesterday how, because it's mostly muscle memory. Once you started doing a lot of animal fur, it's like muscle memory. And I was trying to think how to tell the ladies how to make the fur. And I think the thing that I came up with for them to try and was like clumps of flames. So you're starting off from the same point and going out. Starting off from the same point and going out, and try to make clumps of flames, and you can move up. So I'll start here at the bottom, take those out, but then I'll start moving from this point out and from that point out. And now I can see that the fur is moving more like that, and I'm doing a rocking motion, a backwards and forwards. And again, while I was talking, I'd got my grip too close, I was too hard, and I'm making big clumpy messes instead of keeping it sideways. And keeping it coming. And nice and light. As we go down here, we're going both directions now. Try not to just do straight hairs, because they just look unnatural. They're following the shape of the bone. The skin's laid on the bone and the fur's growing out of the skin, and they're following the shape of those bones underneath. Can't really see these here. I bet you can't see them very well in the picture, but I'm putting them in anyway because I want that texture. And leave gaps. That's one of the things that you need to do, is to leave gaps. You can go over in some places where you create a thicker one, because that creates a fur effect. But you've got to create some gaps as well, because you've got to go in with other colours, and you don't want to go over the top all the time of the same area that every bit's filled in. You can turn your picture upside down to work sometimes if you can't see what you're doing. Turning your picture upside down can be a great help. So I've put this darker colour in now, it's like that sort of colour, and I'm going with the more orangey colour now around this. And I know you can't see a lot of it in and around that picture yet, but it will blend back nicely. So I'll start back up over the top. Take my pencil back, keep turning it around, keep my strokes light, looking to go sometimes over the top of what I've got down, but other times not, looking to get into the gaps between. So we're creating fur textures. I'm going out from that dark a bit further, because the fur goes a lot lighter up there. So I might want to put some of that dark in, but I'll see. So closer to the nose where it's darker, I'm starting with a darker colour, going up to a mid colour. But then as I go out, because the fur goes a lot lighter, I'm taking my mid colour out. Still trying to keep the direction of that fur. Still wiping my pencil off. And it is always about going backwards, forwards, backwards, forwards. I'm just turning that round because it'll be a bit easier for me to work. And you can't really see this colour too much. It might be even more difficult in the video over our underneath colour. But then when we go over with the lighter and the darker, it will, you will be able to see it. Always keep looking at where that fur is, making little clumps. Your little clumps of little flames is helpful. And these are only your beginning strokes. You're gonna go lighter. Even right up close here, we're gonna bring some lighter colours in. This is just muscle memory. It's really hard for me to describe or tell you how to do this. The stuff like the nose, the eye, the mouth, I have to think about that myself when I'm doing it. I don't just sit down and make a mouth or an eye. I have to think about what I'm doing. I'm looking for, all the time, I'm looking for where's that light, where's that dark, etc, etc. So it's easier because I'm thinking of those things. But when I draw fur, when I'm not trying to talk to you and tell you how to do it, it's more of a therapeutic process where sometimes I forget what I'm doing and my hand just carries on. And as long as if I'm working to a reference photograph, if I'm not just creating something out of my crazy weird brain, as long as I keep my eyes more on the photograph than on what I'm drawing, the fur textures seem to appear for me. They didn't to start with, and I spent more time looking at my drawing than I did my reference photo, because I was trying so hard to create those shapes, and I could see that that's what everybody was doing yesterday, trying so hard to create shapes. And I can understand why, because it is all about the shapes. But eventually, when you do enough of it, you'll stop thinking about it. My brain, you see, my brain's gone now. I can't talk because it's gone into its fur drawing. It's gone into the zone. And it's just drawing fur, and it's having a lovely time with it. It's so therapeutic. Don't be too harsh with your lines. As you go back over, as you work backwards and forwards and backwards and forwards and go back over them, because you're working light, this tooth on the top of the paper is still going to pick it up, but it's also going to intensify where you went before, which again, it creates that illusion of fur. Keep turning that pencil. Keep going out. And even when we go over where we want these lines, those lines will they'll stay there, but we'll go over the top of them. And that'll help them to not look so much like lines. It'll create the folds that we're looking for. Turn my paper around now. Got talking and forgot to pull these down. Go now straight. But we all make mistakes. And it's not the end of the world because it's for fun. We're not doing this to charge somebody any money for. We're doing something that's nice for us and just fun. And most people won't notice your mistakes anyway. If you go on art groups and things, you'll see that some people do really wonderful art and they get a right lot of likes, and then somebody else does okay art and they don't get very many likes or not as many. And that's just human nature. When you're going on social media every day and looking at other people's work, your brain, you start liking and commenting on the things that are extraordinary, because your brain's seeing it all the time. The things that you admire, the things that you aspire to, are kind of the things that you just keep on remarking on and liking. I have to make a conscious effort to not just look at the work that's jumping out at me, but looking at the work that other people are doing and finding bits in their work that I really like. Because even when the beginners, people will do bits. When you know that they're a beginner, people will often say, oh, I'm a beginner, or I'm new, or whatever. And when you see that, and then you see something that they've done really well for somebody who's just beginning, it's nice to look at what they're doing and thinking, yeah, that's really good for a beginner. You know, they've got that bit down. And it's really good for you, because then you can start to look at the bits that you're getting right, instead of always being so self-critical, which we always are. But I'm rushing through this again, but I'm just trying to give you an idea of where we're starting with the fur. I won't go out any further there actually. So I've used those two colours now to get that down. I've used the colours first of all in the pastel background underneath the fur, these two, and I've gone back darker again with the pencils then. I'm going to put those two to one side now, and I'm going to come back to this it's like a fleshy pinky colour. It's called pink white. Actually, I'm not going to go with pink white. I'm going to go with some of these fleshy colours. It's quite tempting at this point, because there looks to be a very creamy yellowy cast to that dog, to just shift over to my creams. These sorts of colours. And I will use them, but I kind of want to save those till the end, and I need to get other colours in there to create depth. So the two that I'm going to use to start with are these two. I'm just going to sharpen them before I start. These little sharpeners are actually doing really well on pastel pencils. I'm quite surprised. Cheap sharpeners just off Amazon. But they're not breaking the lead. And these Caran d'Ache pencils are quite soft leads. So out of the two, I'm going to go with the darker one first. And then I'm going to go with that one next. And I'm just going to carry on doing exactly what I've been doing. Nice light little strokes. Keep cleaning that pencil off. And even though I'm using the darker one, you can see how much lighter it is than what we've got down there already. And then we're going to go up with quite a lot darker. And I'm trying not to make so much lines. I'm trying to keep this soft. And create these little tufts and textures of fur that when you look closely you can see. I'm not trying to follow the reference photograph at all now. I've stopped with that because I'm just enjoying what I'm doing, and it's really just to show you how to create fur. And I'm not trying to replicate that photograph for any reason. When you see fur, you will see things like these longer, darker lines in it. And that's why we go down with darker colours first, because you will see them. And it can be quite difficult. You can do it, but once you've got your lights in, you can go back in with darks. But it can be more tricky. It's much easier to go from... With pastels anyway, I think it's much easier to go from dark to light. I mean, you can go whichever way with pastels. I'm trying to keep it soft, but sometimes I'm going like over the same area but in a slightly different direction. Trying to analyse what I'm doing as I'm doing this, because I've stopped. I don't listen to how other people do it now, because you'll have to find your own way. You're going to listen to me to start with, but eventually you'll have muscle memory for this part of a drawing. Your dog fur, any sort of fur that you practice enough, you'll have muscle memory. And I'm trying to analyse for you as I'm doing it what it is that I'm doing. And I'm sometimes going back over the same place twice, but I don't want to press down. I just want it to, in some areas, catch more of the lighter colour. But I'm still wanting to see those other colours underneath. So I'm trying to work with gaps. This here can get to looking a bit either abrupt or a bit dirty, but I would come back in and I would come back in with that, and I would blend that out with a pencil probably, rather than a Q-tip. And I would probably use sort of a lightweight motion to blend that out a little bit, so it still looks dark. And I won't be that bothered about cleaning my pencil with this, because I'm trying to push that dark out a little bit into the fur. So I wouldn't be trying to clean my pencil, because this is where I'm wanting to move that colour and push it out. And then it looks like it's laid behind. That dark now looks like it's laid behind. And it looks a lot more natural. And then I might come in with something like this just to give a little bit here over the top. I'm going to carry on working on that fur though. hoping that somebody might be working along with me. It's all good practice, this fur, because when we get onto those ears, the first ear's not got much fur. It's about the skin tones, and the shapes to make an ear look like an ear. The second one is about fur, short, chunky, clumpy fur that you've still got to get going with its right shades and shapes to make it look like the shape of the ear. And then the third one, the spaniel, I find is the most difficult of all, and I see lots and lots of people online that struggle with that. And the very first one that I did, yeah, I've still got this picture up. The first spaniel ear that I did, I really struggled with it. I just got like loads of wiggly worms. And I couldn't work out what to do about them. I was actually at one of the tutorials with that, and the artist, you know, she agreed with me that I'd got a lot of wiggly worms, but there were quite a lot of people there, and I don't think she had the time to tell me how to correct it, and I got quite disheartened because I thought I'd done quite well with the rest of it, but she didn't seem to have any tips or hints to tell me how to correct what I was doing. And I can understand that because there were a lot of people there, but that's why I like it when we work together and we work in small groups, because when you're struggling, it's nice for me to come along and just say, oh, right, let me just give you a little demo and I'll show you what I would do. Or, yeah, you've got this a little bit out or that a little bit out. And for you to get some constructive help of how to do it, not just an agreement that you're making a mess of that. that can be quite disheartening when you're trying to draw. And, you know, I've noticed with you ladies, when we start doing something new, the new bits of it, it is hard for everybody until you get this muscle memory to switch from intense detail to switching over to getting your brain doing this. I'm not looking at the direction of this fur, I'm chattering away. Move my grip on my pencil back to the top. Did you notice? Really am having a big learning curve here. I'm doing this. It's nice to learn something. Make my brain think about something instead of just sitting here. So I've got these three colours now, and I'm going to go in with this one first. It's called Light Flesh. And I'm going to just do the same again. Just keep going. Building my little flames and my little textures. I hope I'm still under this. Oh, I don't know what's happened. I'm going to stop there because I don't know what's happened to my DVD, my recording.